What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to part 5 of my series to getting to a 185-pound overhead press. I make a video on this every single time new PRs happen or any updates occur for this goal to keep you guys posted on what's working, what's not, and kind of what I'm doing to figure out to get to this point in case it's something that you also want to do so that there can be some value for the viewer so that you can also follow along and try and achieve it too if it's something that you want to do. As of recently, which I mentioned in the last video, I've been doing a lot of the seated shoulder press variant of the overhead press. It's a vertical press, obviously, so it carries over well to each variation, but I've been doing it as a way to kind of push better numbers without as much fatigue overall in my lower back and core because I was cutting during that time. Now I am happy to announce I am back on the bulk and I'm up about 15 pounds since the last time that I updated this series, and I'm about 185 to like 186-ish in terms of where my body weight fluctuates, and my strength is going up immediately, you know, in correlation, which is typically how it's going to go with your presses. The heavier you get, usually the better, stronger your presses overall become, horizontal, vertical, whichever, they all go up. Now, as far as where my seated shoulder press is right now, the way that I'm doing it is I have one day where I go really high on the reps, and I have one day where I go in like a more moderate rep range. And so I'll have my upper body A workout where I do 5 sets of 5 to 8, and then I'll have my upper body B workout where I do 4 sets of 15 to 20, kind of feeding into each other. The 4 sets of 15 to 20 works as a conditioning day where I do a lot of reps, get nice blood flow, and kind of like more of a hypertrophic effect. Obviously, you don't have to go that high in reps, but I'd like to kind of push the extremes a little bit. And the way that works out is it increases your work capacity so that your heavier stuff becomes a little easier to get through, and it kind of just it'll increase your strength in a way. I don't know, it's GPP. I don't know how many of you know about general physical preparedness. Basically, the better that is, the better progression you're going to have overall with your strength or size and in whichever given area you're trying to improve. That being said, so far for each respective day, the numbers I've been pushing on the 5 to 8 rep range day, so far I've worked up to 125 pounds for the entire 4 sets of 8. I got 8 reps each set, right? So 125 pounds for 4 sets of 8, which is pretty good. That means if I am able to work up to a 135 pound weight for that same rep range of 4 sets of 8, I should be able to get 185 pounds at least on this seated variation of the overhead press, which is, you know, that much closer to getting to the 185 pound variant of the freestanding overhead press. So pretty excited about that. I already know where my 1 rep max is for that. Last time I tested it, it was 170. I think I'm a little higher than that now, but once I get to a 135 for the 4 sets of 8, I know for sure that I'll be at that 185 range. And for the 4 sets of 20 day, 4 sets of 15 to 20, thus far I have managed to do that with 95 pounds. So I'm almost in the triple digits for the 20 reps, right? So I get 95 pounds last time for 4 sets of 20, so I maxed out the rep range. I'm going to increase the weight either by 5 pounds, or I'll use my micro plates and increase it by 3 pounds to kind of make the transition a little more seamless. That being said, this is kind of like a 4-week wave that I'm doing right now, and then once those 4 weeks are up, I'm going to do a little bit of basically a deload where I take a couple days off, and then I'm going to go ahead and max out on that variation and see where my numbers are now. And with the training being as specific as it is, with the bulk going the way that it is, I am, you know, for sure expecting to be hitting some PRs. Now that being said, a little other things that I've changed recently. I'm now reintroducing weighted dips, which I haven't done for a little bit. They were kind of becoming stale last time I ran them, and I recently brought them back in, and I am pretty happy with where I'm at with it because on a random arm day I decided to max out and I actually hit a PR. I did 3.5 plates. Yes. Which in terms of total weight, I believe that brings it to about, what is it, 135 plus 45, But that's 160 pounds on top of my body weight of 185-ish, which is a PR right off the bat. Last time I remember it being at about 145-ish, or yeah, 145, around there. So to be able to do 160 off rip, being detrained in the movement, you know, not having that volume tolerance, not having the movement pattern down as fine-tuned as it was before. The 1 rep max before was like a peaked kind of 1 rep max. Now it's kind of like, that was my cruiser strength. That was like my brute force Oonga Boonga type strength. So now I'm reintroducing those in, and that again is going to feed into any vertical pressing I do and any horizontal pressing I do. This is like the most strength specific training that I tend to do. Other than that, everything is a lot more hypertrophy biased, but I do think having a blend of both is pretty beneficial, and ultimately the only reason I'm doing this is to beef my shoulders up, which I think is working. I mean, undoubtedly I would say my shoulders have come up a lot, especially in that anterior delt area. Obviously this is like going to be the one portion of your shoulder getting hit the most when you're doing a vertical press, but mine tends to not get as much stimulus from those movements as you would expect. And a lot of people say that, oh, you know, your vertical presses and your horizontal presses and whatever presses, they're going to be enough volume for your front delt. Like, you don't need to do whatever or any extra work. They're going to be fully developed. In my case, that doesn't tend to be the case, because the way that my chest inserts into my shoulder, as you guys can see here, it's a deep, high up insertion. So when I do a vertical press, it's actually in a very like well aligned position to take up the volume if I'm not like very intentional with the way that I'm doing the movement. So in a lot of cases, at least for me, these presses do not do much for my front delt. So being more specific with the training and getting a little more fine-tuned and dialed in has been the necessary kind of key to this puzzle. Because if I don't do that, they're going to be a chronic weak point, and they're going to be a limiting factor in any other pursuit as far as pressing goes. That on top of that, right, I've also been beefing up my triceps quite a bit. As you can see here, they're really carved out. Even though in this body weight, they used to not be on that level of leanness, and they used to not be as defined or dense looking, the strength on that portion is going up quite a bit as well. I'm going to be moving into the triple digits for pretty much every isolation movement for my triceps at this point, and I think that's going to be a tremendous carryover as well. So the weighted dips, the seated overhead press, all that stuff, I'm mainly using those to drive the strength and hypertrophy currently. And then once all that's done, I get to a 185 variant with this version, or 185 1 rep max with this variant, I mean. We will then reintroduce the standing overhead press and see if we can hit some PRs coming back into the movement, because of the bulking, the better recovery, and the extra muscle mass in that area now. But as far as updates regarding this particular goal for me, that's about as far as I've come. That's about as far as I've gotten so far. And that's going to be it for the update this time around, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you're enjoying this series. If you are, please let me know in the comment section down below. And if you have any tips, recommendations, any sort of pieces of advice for me to make this process a little easier, please let me know. And if you have a friend who might enjoy this kind of stuff, please share the videos. That helps out a lot. And I want to say thank you guys so much for getting my fat loss video, how I lost 40 pounds fast as frick. Thanks for getting that video to over 5,000 views. I mean, that is insane numbers, considering that I've never even gotten a video with that many views before. So that being said, thank you so much, and as always, boy.